Ganyu, the hardest working adepti in Liyue, so much so that she would sacrifice sleep to get the work done, and then getting caught sleep standing or sleeping on a patch of grass like an adepti she is. Please don't do that again, Ganyu, or Chi-Chi will get to you for real this time. Now, since Ganyu is finally having her rerun after a whole year, many are excited to be getting her, and so today I will be creating an updated in-depth guide on Ganyu, going through everything you need to know about her skills, weapons, and artifacts, as well as how to play her in terms of both DPS and support playstyle. I'll be having timestamp for each sections across the video so it's easier for you to navigate, and with that, let's hop into the video. First, let's have a look into Ganyu's overview. Is that she is a cryo DPS that has access to insane cryo support capabilities, specializing in her charge attack and elemental burst to take down your enemies. From having access to cryo DPS as well as the support, that's why she's still one of the highest used character in Genshin Impact up to date. Her capability as a damage dealer in both single targeted and AoE situations, as well as her ability to support powerful character, makes her fit in almost any team comp. And so with Ganyu, you can focus on building her as a cryo DPS or a cryo support depending on the situation of your account. But either way, she's able to move across both roles very easily, and I will be going through that in later part of this video. Now let's hop into Ganyu's talents and skills. Her normal attack, Lutean Archery, has 6 consecutive strike. However, this has rather low scaling, so most of the time you will not be using this, but if you want to, you can still do so as it looks really good. But her true powers lies within her charge attack mechanic, because Ganyu charge attack is quite different from most other characters. When you hold down Ganyu's charge attack, she has that level 1 charge where she infuses her arrow with cryo and then fire off that shot on charge level 1 just like any other bow character would. However, if you hold down it further, Ganyu will charge another level of a charge shot, which is the charge level 2, and if you release it during this state, it will fire off a cryo arrow that blooms in AoE cryo explosions. And this is where Ganyu is set apart from almost all other bow character, is because her level 2 charge attack deals AoE damage, which solves a major problem of bow character, is that it's really hard to aim them at times and you can easily miss. But with this AoE charge attack, the chance of you missing is reduced significantly, plus you can hit multiple enemies with a single charge attack, unlike many other bow characters. Both of the cryo arrow and the bloom that it does after gets the benefit of the charge attack bonuses. That's why Ganyu level 2 charge attack deals an absolute insane amount of damage. And also something to note is that it does not have internal cooldown, which is ICD. Therefore, Ganyu has the potential to literally melt all of her charge attack damage. Moving on to her E skill, the Trail of Qilin, Ganyu will pull herself back, leaving behind an Ice Lotus that stays on field for a bit of a time and then after explode, dealing AoE cryo damage. Now her elemental skill doesn't really do that much of a damage, however it adds really nice utility to Ganyu and it supports her really well in that it taunts enemies to make them focus on the Lotus instead of her. Because Ganyu has a huge issue is that during the time when she's charging her attack, if she gets attacked, she will get interrupted, and so the Lotus ensure that the enemies is not going to be chasing her down when she's in the charge attack, ensuring you firing off her charge attack. Ganyu's elemental burst, Celestial Shower, an absolutely beautiful name, does exactly what the name says, is that it creates an ice field that drops down icicle within its radius. It has an uptime of 15 seconds, which is really long for a burst and only costs you 60 energy. Within the burst duration, a total of 50 icicle will fall down, and it is distributed very equally with a guarantee of 10 hits per target, and so at a maximum of 5 enemies you are guaranteed to hit with all icicles. If there are fewer enemies than 5, you will still have that 10 guarantee hit on each of the enemy, and then afterward it will be random on each of the enemies. Now something to note also is that this icicle also deals AoE damage. Therefore, even though that it only hits one enemy at a time, but if you're able to group all of the enemies on field to each other, you will be able to take advantage of the AoE damage that each of the icicle does, therefore increasing the Celestial Shower damage significantly. Not only that, since her burst has an uptime of 15 seconds and deals a very consistent amount of ice damage to all of the enemies. This is where support Ganyu is so good, as this makes Ganyu also one of the most reliable cryo application in the game. Plus her burst has very decent scaling, so the amount of damage you're getting from this also enhances Ganyu DPS by a lot as well. For her passive talent 1, the Undivided Heart, after firing a Frost Flick arrow, the crit rate of the subsequent Frost Flick arrows and their resulting bloom effect is increased by 20% for 5 seconds. So to put it simply, it provides an additional 20% crit rate for Ganyu's charge attack level 2, and for her passive talent 2, whenever Ganyu casts her burst, it grants a 20% cryo damage bonus to any party members that is within its AoE, which is really good. Both of her talents increase Ganyu damage by a ton, and it also gives 20% cryo damage, which again is going to be another support potential for your team, especially in cryo. Now as for talent prioritization, if you're running a DPS Ganyu, then you will focus on her normal attack first because it increases her charge attack, and then after go for her burst as it provides a really good damage over time, and then finally her Trail of Chillin if you really want to level up to do a little bit more of damage. However, that is not really a priority, and if you're going with support Ganyu over DPS, then you can just focus on Celestial Shower first and then upgrade a little bit of her normal attack. But either way, upgrading normal attack and burst on Ganyu will benefit both of her roles. Moving on to Ganyu's weapon, we'll have a look into her DPS weapon choices. First, the Amos bow is still the top tier bow for Ganyu at this point in time. In terms of aesthetics, it's a bow that's made for Ganyu, so it looks perfectly on her, but the damage output it gives up until now still outshines all of the other 5-star bow till this point. One of the reason being is that Ganyu charge attack level 2 really takes benefit of the Amos bow passive effect, meaning that regardless of the distance from the enemies, the bloom damage will always use at least 3 stack of the Amos bow's passive. And so even though the Amos bow don't really give you any crit rate stats for you to build, the amount of attack damage that it gives really makes up for it. Right after the Amos bow is the Thundering Pulse. It's not really too much behind of the Amos bow, so if you happen to get this bow, really use it on Ganyu because you will really benefit from it. Plus it gives you an insane amount of crit damage up to 66%, which makes your Ganyu build a lot easier. After that, you can go with a Polar Star if you have it. It does give you a lot of crit rate and also very good passive. And then right after it, the Skyward Harp, just slightly underneath the Polar Stars. Now moving on to the free to play option, because Ganyu free to play option is absolutely amazing. You've got the Prototype Crescent. If you manage to get this weapon to R5 and then trigger its passive, it's going to be better than a Skyward Harp R1. And since this is going to be something that's grindable in the game, many of you should be able to get it the longer you play. However, if you're not able to trigger the Prototype Crescent's passive, then it does fall below quite a bit in damage. So you do have the next option, which is the Hamayumi bow from the Inazuma craftable weapons. This bow deals a little bit less damage than the Prototype Crescent if it is triggered with its passive. However, the damage consistency with this bow is a lot better, so you can consider your choice and choose accordingly. You do have another option, which is the Blackcliff War bow from the shop, but usually I don't really recommend it because its passive isn't really good when you're up against one-on-one boss fight, plus it does cost you a lot of star glitter, so you might just as well as get a free-to-play weapon, save the star glitter for some of your character's pool. Now moving on to support weapon, her best inline is going to be the Elegy, because since you're running support Ganyu, she does require a bit of energy recharge to keep up her burst. So if you got access to this amazing 5-star weapon, go for it, because its passive also give her a bit more attack as well as support your team attack damage as well. So very good all-around support weapon. However, most of us won't be having the Elegy, so the next best is the Fervodus Warbow, which is the free-to-play option. And so most of the time you're just going to be using this on support Ganyu. Or if you have the Sack bow and it's lying around and then you're not using it, it's also a good option because now Ganyu has the ability to use 2 of her E skills, setting up 2 Lotus, which does help her regenerate more energy, but it also helps you taunt more enemies and then grouping them together, helping you other DPS an easier time to deal damage. And then you've got some of the other paid options like the Viridescent for a little bit of crit rate if you want to, that also works for Ganyu, or the Stringless also, which gives elemental mastery, as well as burst damage, which help Ganyu deals a little bit more damage, but normally we save string list for other options, so I just recommend you to go with Favonia's Warbow. And then next, moving on to Ganyu's artifacts. Now up until patch 2.4, we've got quite a lot of interesting sets for Ganyu, unlike before when she arrived last year. Ganyu's top option for DPS is actually the Shimenawa Reminiscent. It has been tested to be the strongest option for Ganyu because of the very high passive for the 4-piece it gives. However, this is also one of the least consistent option for Ganyu across all of her sets because it takes away her burst energy, that's one thing, but also you need to manage her energy from team rotation in order to trigger this passive wall. So again, if you like a bit of the challenge with using Ganyu, then you can go with this set. But for the best consistency for Ganyu set, it's going to be the Wanderer's Troop 4-piece. This first of all gives you an 80 elemental mastery bonus, which gives you more damage under melt. But what's better is that it gives 35% damage bonus to Ganyu's charge attack every single time, therefore giving you a very consistent damage output. However, with this set, if you're early on into the game, it's going to be rather hard to farm, so you can use it if you have it. After that, it's going to be Ganyu 2-piece Blizzard Strayer and then 2-piece Glad. This set is one of the easier to farm because you're only like mix matching 2 pieces together and giving you a nice damage boost of 15% cryo and 18% attack boost. After that is the Blizzard Strayer. Now this is a very conditional set. If you're running a freeze comp Ganyu, then this set will outshine any other set that we're talking about. However, if you're running with Melt Ganyu or any other, this will not be ideal because you're not going to have a lot of crit rate built into this set because its 4-piece passive already gives you a ton of crit rate. And so this set is very OP when you're using under freeze, so do consider a bit if you're trying to go for this 4-piece Blizzard Strayer. And then another bonus option is going to be the Retracing Bow Light. It is a very decent option because first it gives you shield strength bonus, and once you're under shield, you will get a 40% damage bonus on most of your attack. Now this works respectively well with Ganyu because most of the time she's either going to be running with Zhongli or Diona because they give her shield to protect her from interruption from her charge attack. However, do remember that this set only works when you're under shield, making your Ganyu very dependent on having Zhongli or Diona on the team. Now on to Ganyu's Constellation. Just to keep in mind guys is that at C0, Ganyu is literally going to annihilate anything that stands in her way already, so her Constellation is not really needed. But if you're a Ganyu shrimp or Ganyu lover, then definitely all of her Constellation will help you enhance Ganyu damage by a lot. C1 Dew Drinker. It allows Ganyu charge attack level 2 to decrease opponent cryo resistance by 15% for 6 seconds while also regenerate Ganyu's energy. So her C1 here is already going to be helping her in terms of support and DPS level by a lot. Her C2 give her another E skills, which enhances Ganyu's quality of life a bit but not too significant. It gives her a bit more energy recharge and allows you to easier taunt enemy because now you have access to another Lotus. However, the real value of this Constellation only starts once you get Ganyu to C6. We know that C3 and C5 is going to be enhancing her burst and her E skills. Her C4 is absolutely amazing, especially for support Ganyu, increasing her burst damage by 5% every 3 seconds up to a maximum level of 25%. Seriously guys, with the level of DPS Ganyu is at, anyone who is under her burst within C4 is literally not gonna live. And then C6, I don't know what to say. C6 is absolutely broken for Ganyu. After using the Trail of Qilin, it caused the next Frost Flake arrow shot to not need to charge, which is why C2 comes really handy now because you get the ability to not charge shot 2 Frost Flake arrows. And it also allows Ganyu to work very well in quick swap team as well because now you just need to quickly swap to Ganyu, use the E skill, press the charge shots, and then she's gonna deal an insane amount of damage from her Frost Flake arrow level 2. Moving on to Ganyu's team comp, she's usually run with Melt and Freeze comp. Melt work really well with Ganyu because without internal cooldown, she's capable of melting all of her charge shots, resulting in a huge amount of melt damage in very consistently. This comp also works really well with single targeted boss fights. You usually run Ganyu with 2 pyro characters, normally running with Xiangling and Bennett because it's very free to play friendly and it gives you a very consistent pyro damage application for Ganyu to melt. And then the remaining slot you can either go with Zhongli for shield for non-interruption during her charge attack, or usually we also run with an anemo character like Kazuha, especially to boost your damage even more, while Kazuha burst also helps World Pyro to keep up the Pyro sustainability. Now even though Melt Ganyu deals an insane amount of damage, it is not as popular as free comp Ganyu. The reason being Ganyu is able to take advantage of the cryo crit rate resonant boost along with very good crowd control to make a very good use of Ganyu's elemental burst. One of the most popular team for Ganyu for freeze is what's called the Morgana team. You've got Ganyu, you've got Mona, Venti and Diona. Venti is going to be here to obviously crowd control as well as sustaining cryo swirl applied element. Diona is going to be your battery as well as healer, and Mona is here to not just apply hydro but also her ability to apply omen onto your enemies to help Ganyu deal more damage. Now the Morgana team is not the only freeze comp that you can use. This comp can be varied a lot. The only thing that you need is basically a cryo, an anemo and a hydro character along with Ganyu. So for example, within this patch we've got Shanha, who is the new crowd support, which runs absolutely insane with Ganyu. You can have Ganyu, Shanha along with Kokomi to heal as well as hydro applied, and then Kazuha as well for enhanced cryo damage. This team also works absolutely insane, so you can just use however you like depending on your account. So we've basically covered all the basics and in-depth knowledge of Ganyu at this point. Now here's going to be a quick showcase of how my Ganyu is currently doing to show you a bit of Ganyu's potential.
You've made some progress. Not bad. You've got a trick. All you do is run. Break!
Ganyu is an absolutely insane character that you will literally find her use in every single abyss and domains. Her use of being a hyper carry plus accessing to support capability is something that not many characters is able to do. So I hope that the video have been of useful to you. Let me know down in the comment section below how you're planning to build your Ganyu. If you found the guide helpful, you can check out some of my other character guide video, as I'm sure it will help you out as well. If you're new to the channel as well, be sure to subscribe to my channel for more of my Supra guides, Genshin builds and tips. With that, I wish you a Supra day and I will see you on the next video.